Y'all ever notice how some men get a little money and power, then suddenly regular life stops being enough? Today we're talking about why wealthy men keep showing up in headlines for the most disgusting crimes imaginable. Let me tell you something that makes my skin crawl. We need to have a real conversation about why rich and powerful men keep getting caught up in the most vile, disgusting criminal behavior you can imagine. I'm talking about sexual exploitation, manipulation, and straight-up predatory actions against people who can't fight back. And before anybody tries to come for me in the comments, I'm not saying every wealthy man is out here committing crimes, but the pattern is too loud to ignore. Look at Jeffrey Epstein. That man had an entire island dedicated to trafficking young girls. An island. He had private jets, connections to presidents, princes, and billionaires, and he used all of it to create a network of abuse that went on for decades. And here's what really gets me. Everybody knew, people whispered about it at parties, made jokes about it in private conversations, but nobody with real power stepped in until it was too late. That tells you everything you need to know about how wealth protects predators. But Epstein's not the only one. We've seen politicians, CEOs, entertainment moguls, religious leaders, all people with money, status, and families at home, getting arrested for crimes against children. These aren't isolated incidents. This is a pattern that keeps repeating itself across every industry, every country, every level of power. So we have to ask ourselves, what is it about wealth and power that seems to breed this kind of depravity? Here's where the psychology gets real uncomfortable. When you have money, you can buy almost anything. Fancy cars, check. Multiple houses, check. The best food, clothes, experiences, all of it is available whenever you want it. But here's the thing about the human brain. It adapts. What used to excite you stops giving you that same rush. Psychologists call it hedonic adaptation. You get used to the good stuff, and suddenly it doesn't hit the same way anymore. That dopamine spike you used to get from success, from buying something nice, from achieving a goal, it gets smaller and smaller. Now, for most people with money, they deal with this by finding new hobbies, giving to charity, spending time with family, building something meaningful. They channel that need for stimulation into positive directions. But for a certain type of man, especially ones who've built their identity around dominance and control, regular life becomes boring. They start chasing more extreme experiences because nothing else satisfies them anymore. And this is where things get dark. Power does something to the brain. Studies have shown that people in positions of power actually show less empathy over time. Their ability to consider other people's feelings and perspectives diminishes. They start seeing people as objects, as tools to be used for their own gratification. Add money to that equation, and you've got someone who believes they're above consequences. They think their wealth can buy silence, buy lawyers, buy their way out of anything. And unfortunately, they're often right. Let's talk about the control aspect. These men aren't just seeking pleasure. If they were, they could find plenty of legal, consensual ways to get it. What they're actually chasing is power over people who have none. That's why so many of these cases involve minors or people in vulnerable positions. It's not about attraction in any normal sense. It's about dominance. It's about being able to force someone to do something they don't want to do. That's what gives them the rush that nothing else can provide anymore. It's sick, it's twisted, and it tells you everything about their character. And here's what really bothers me. These men often have everything. They've got wives, children, families who love them, careers that people would kill for, enough money to live comfortably for multiple lifetimes, but it's not enough. Why? Because the problem is internal. No amount of external success can fill an internal void. No amount of power can satisfy someone who's fundamentally broken inside. Think about it like this. When you're constantly seeking the next high, the next thrill, the next thing that makes you feel alive, you're running from something. You're running from emptiness, from lack of purpose, from a deep sense that despite everything you've accomplished, you still feel hollow. And instead of doing the hard work of addressing that emptiness through therapy, self-reflection, or genuine human connection, they try to fill it with increasingly extreme behaviors. They cross lines that normal people would never even approach. Let's not forget the enabler culture that protects these men. How many stories have we heard about assistants who scheduled the meetings, lawyers who paid off victims, friends who looked the other way? Wealth doesn't just buy silence from victims, it buys complicity from everyone around them. People who depend on these men for their livelihoods become participants in covering up crimes. They rationalize it, minimize it, tell themselves it's not their business. Meanwhile, more people get hurt. The government officials getting caught with minors while they've got picture-perfect families at home. That's the same psychology. They've created a public persona of morality, family values, and righteousness, but privately they're living a completely different life. The compartmentalization required to maintain that double life is staggering. But again, power makes people believe they're special, that rules don't apply to them, that they're smart enough to never get caught. What makes me furious is how long these men get away with it. Epstein was operating for over 20 years before he finally faced serious consequences. 20 years. How many lives were destroyed in that time? How many young girls had their childhood stolen because powerful men protected a predator? And Epstein's just the one we know about because he got caught. How many others are out there right now, protected by their wealth and connections, doing the exact same thing? The pattern is global. We see it in Hollywood, in politics, in business, in religious institutions, everywhere. Wherever there's concentrated power and wealth, you find these predators. They're not limited by geography, race, or industry. What unites them is the belief that their money and status places them above basic human decency and legal consequences. Society needs to stop being shocked every time another wealthy man gets exposed. We need to start expecting it and building systems that don't allow wealth to become a shield for criminal behavior. We need to believe victims when they come forward instead of questioning why they waited so long or what they hoped to gain. We need to hold enablers accountable, not just the main perpetrators, and we need to have serious conversations about what we're teaching boys about power, about consent, about treating other human beings with basic respect. The bottom line is this: wealth and power don't create perverts, but they do enable them. They give predators the resources to act on their worst impulses and the protection to avoid consequences. The psychology behind it is a toxic mix of hedonic adaptation, decreased empathy, a pathological need for control, and internal emptiness that no external success can fill. These men could choose to use their resources for good, to get help, to be better human beings. Instead, they choose to harm the most vulnerable people they can find because that's the only thing that makes them feel powerful anymore. We cannot afford to look away. We cannot afford to make excuses. Every time we minimize these crimes, every time we say someone's too important to face consequences, every time we question victims instead of predators, we're participating in the system that allows this behavior to continue. Rich men have earned their reputation because too many of them have proven it's deserved. And until we fundamentally change how we treat wealth, power, and accountability in this society, this pattern will keep repeating itself. That's the real talk. That's what we're not supposed to say out loud, but I'm saying it because somebody needs to.